folks, welcome to the introduction to the new ZXi series of Srixon products. We're going to run through from drivers, fairways, hybrids and irons. And there'll be a separate video on the Cleveland products, so the wedges that are within the Srixon family of products we'll do in a separate review with the Cleveland woods and irons as well. So I'm going to start off here with the drivers, and we'll take you through each model, what the tech changes are, what it actually means from a playing point of view, but focusing on what the tech changes are rather than the hitting review. Going to start looking at the ZXi range of drivers. Now we're going to take each technological feature and explain what it is and what it actually really means. But these run across all three heads. So you've got the LS, the standard ZXi and the Max. The features are there in each head. The main change, the only differences are really regarding the weights on the bottom, which we'll come on to at the end, and what differentiates each head. So the start point is really the iFlex face. So this is to do with thick, thin locations on the face. It's a face thickness pattern, and what they've done is they've changed this by allowing to use the interior of the face being a little bit stronger, by interior we mean more in the center. So by using a stronger strengthened material, it allows them to go thinner. So it's really optimizing face thickness and thinness in terms of optimal positions. You know, there's a wave of thick and thinness across the face. There's essentially historically a ring around the center that enables you to go thinner in the middle but retain ball speed and stability on the outside of it, and it's a development of that. So it optimizes ball speed across the face. So that is the first feature, where they've adapted that strength of material to thin out and increase ball speed in the center very slightly, but then that also helps across the face too. The next part is the rebound frame. Now, rebound framing is essentially the kind of the framing of the head itself, and it's a system that applies energy transfer to the ball at impact. So the stiffer the frame of the head, the less deformation, the less energy is actually lost through the head squashing. So you lose energy through sound and heat, but also if that head deforms, then actually the energy isn't translated back into the ball. So the stiffer the frame of the head, the better the energy transfer, the better the ball speed. And it maximizes the flex across the face, so it allows the iFlex face iteration to be optimized in terms of how much usage it gets. The firmer that frame, the more effective that face is. So by stabilizing the ridging of the head, by stabilizing the frame of the head, it allows them to utilize that face tech a little bit more, optimize ball speed across the whole face, so losing less energy through the rest of the head. There's also a star frame crown. Now, this is the top of the head. The crown is the very top of the head there. And what it is it's what Srixon term a complex lattice work, and lattice being kind of crisscross pattern. And it's a lattice work of structure which improves the structural integrity of the head, in the same way that the rebound frame is about stabilizing the head, stabilizing the frame to reduce deformation. This is very, very similar. It's across the crown of the head, allows that to be lighter and stiffer. So again, you're making the top of the head that little bit more rigid. If that doesn't deform, it doesn't pop the ball up and lose spin and ball speed. Again, everything is going back into the ball, keeps the spin down a little bit, but also retains a little bit of ball speed. But by going a little bit thinner and lighter in that very, very thin titanium crown, it allows weight to be repositioned within the head, optimizing weight positioning, a little bit more forgiveness, by going low in the head, keeps spin down as well. So again, it's minutiae, and the marginal gains to be had across all of this is not going to be earth-shattering differences across any of the brands, but it's still these very small incremental gains that optimize the performance of the head ultimately, and I mean the best ball speed across the whole face possible, because it's been limited in the middle since 2003. The other element, which is interesting on the driver, it's a laser milling on the face. Now, there's a very, very fine pattern across the face here, and this is really to optimize wet weather performance, consistency of spin off the head. So if you have a completely polished face, then there's nothing for the ball to grip on. Absolutely fine in dry conditions. The friction of the club speed at impact and the loft of the club creates that bit of grip. But if you've got a film of moisture on the surface, then it effectively aquaplanes. There's nothing actually gripping the face. It gets between the ball and the club face at impact. and that means you gain dispersion. So what this laser face milling does is it creates a little bit of tread, a bit of pattern to get that little bit of grip on the face, to channel a bit of moisture away, but also helps get a little bit of grip on the face with the ball, stabilizing spin, adding a little bit of stability to ball flight across the face in all conditions as well. Finally, adjustability. Srixon have gone to a 1.5 degree adjustment in terms of hosel wise, loft up, loft down. You can change lie and face angle as well. Now this is a single insertion, so each change will affect multiple factors, but a little bit more adjustability than they previously have. The degree of adjustability slightly higher, which just means a little bit more versatility in terms of setting up the head and optimizing face angle and loft for your delivery. Finally, we're onto the weights and the sole. Now this is where the heads differentiate. So the LS, which is the first head here, it's a little bit of a more compact head shape, but this one's really designed around the higher speed, the more aggressive swing, which generally produces a bit more spin. So there's an option of a weight, heavy and lighter weight front and back. And by moving the heavyweight front, it reduces the spin, increases ball speed very slightly, technically makes it a little bit less forgiving, but reduces that spin rate a little bit more. Heavy weight at the back, a little bit more stability, increases the spin slightly, a little bit more launch, but essentially making the LS as forgiving as possible. So there is that front, back, low spin, mid spin, low spin, hot distance orientation, back weighted, more stability, a little bit more reliability. Into the ZXi, standard ZXi series, still have the two weights. This time it's heel and toe. So by having the heavier weight in the heel, creates a little bit more drawbars. Gears, as if you strike point is in the heel, you get a little bit less of a fade bias to it, and a little bit just helps to reduce the back spin and a little bit of the left to right spin as well. And similarly, flipping the weight, so the heavy weight's in the toe, it does the same thing out the toe. So if you're toe striker, it moves the CG behind the strike point a little bit more, reduces the gearing, reduces the hook spin, maintains ball flight a little bit more consistently. Both of these with multiple weights allow a little bit of fine tuning on swing weighting as well. You can purchase alternative weights from Srixon, or we may be able to purchase alternative weights from Srixon to dial in swing weight as well. And then this applies to the max head. In the most forgiving of the heads, it's really focused on weight at the back of the head to optimize stability off center. It's got a single weight in the back, and again, different weights can be purchased than the standard one to dial up and down the head weight and therefore the swing weight and balance. So those are the three models in the driver. The LS really geared around lowering spin, maximizing ball speed, but lowering spin in particular. What about a standard, the I series, it's still got a fairly stable spin profile from a design standpoint, but all the features that we've discussed are about consistency of performance across the face, whilst maintaining that bit of strength and bit of ball speed. And then the max, potentially giving up just a hair of ball speed, but optimizing consistency across the face with that heavy back weight, stability, forgiveness. So plenty of loft options available. In the LS, there's an 8, a 9, and a 10.5, with the 9 being available left-handed. In the ZXi, there's a 9 and a 10.5, with 10.5 available left-handed. And in the Max, there's a 9, a 10.5, and a 12, with the 10.5 also being available left-handed. So plenty of options out there for everyone to get the best performance out of each head. So moving on to the fairways. Srixon underrated with fairways over the years. The previous model was actually really powerful as a head, just didn't get an awful lot of play, and I think moving into the adjustable hosel is going to make a good difference for this. But so again, running over the technological features, a lot of these are the same as the driver. We still have the iFlex face, so it's that variable face thickness design as per the driver, just used marginally differently to optimize low on the face from the fairway woods, but the same principles in terms of using thick and thin spots to optimize ball speed across the key areas of the club face. We still have the rebound frame, so again, stiffening the frame of the head to optimize ball speed across the face, stabilize the head. One thing I actually failed to mention with the driver is with the rebound frame, it utilizes 2 flex zones. So there's one key flex zone on the driver, on the rebound frame feature. In the previous models, this is now about 2. Haven't actually got the exact location of where they've improved these. This will be something we'll certainly comment on in future posts. But by adding adding an extra flex zone on the face, again, you're just improving ball speed across the face. That'll certainly be the principle. I will dive into the details and potentially when we're out in Orlando for the trade show, try and get that information for you to dial into exactly what they've improved with that. We also, with the FAIRWAYS, have the adjustable hosel. This is something that is really, really key from a fitting point of view, is this gives us the versatility to use a lower loft lofted up to close the face or a higher loft lofted down to open the face a little bit, adjusting lie, face angle, loft to really fine-tune the flight in. So from a head where, actually some of the issues with previous models, they were too strong and we didn't have the option to make the 3-wood a little bit higher lofted to get the flight, we now have that. So that same 1.5 degree hosel adjustment as per the driver, same sleeve, same adapter, that's going to be really key to getting the Srixons performing and dialing in performance for players across the board this year. So moving on to features that solely are there for the fairway woods, we've got it's a carbon crown and a carbon step. Now the carbon crown, a lighter, stiffer composite that takes weight out of the crown and allows mass to be redistributed low on the head to get optimal CG for ball speed. Now this varies a little bit in the low lofts to the high lofts, which is also where the crown step comes in. So that little ridge there on the top of the head, it's there in the low loft of woods, so that allows the centre of gravity to be moved a little bit lower. It doesn't take much just to drop the crown a little bit, drops the CG slightly, helps optimise ball speed and a little bit of extra launch. As you'll see from the 5-wood head here, the 5-wood head doesn't have it. So what they're not trying to do is get launch up and ball speed and spin down for raw distance. They're allowing the centre of gravity to sit a little bit higher, which increases spin. So it's for spin and control. So in the higher lofts, not utilising that crown step allows the CG to sit just that little bit higher to keep the spin up that little bit more, and really just not trying to push ball speed quite as far as they are in the lower lofts. So that also feeds into what they call a dynamic centre of gravity switch. So the crown step here helps lower in the lower lofts for higher launch, lower spin, more distance, a little bit higher in the higher lofts for flight, spin, control. So it's set differently as it goes from low loft to high loft and progressed through that set of heads. And they go from a 3+, 3-wood, 5-wood, 7-wood, with the 3 and the 5-wood available left-handed, all with the adjustable sleeve. So plenty of versatility there. The other element is what they call refined tour shaping. So just a slightly progressed shape, so slightly bigger in the 3+, just getting gradually just a little bit tighter, a little bit smaller as you move up in loft. Again, helps manage the centre of gravity as well, getting it lower and deeper in the low lofts to help that launch. There's also a slight change to the sole shape. It's a really smooth down sole shape, progressed and graduated off at the back. So what that does, it helps turf interaction, speed of the club head across the turf, and just means a more consistent contact, trying to make sure that the back of the head doesn't get away of the strike. So again, consistency of contact. As with their irons, which we'll come on to shortly, that turf interaction really a story that Srixon have taken into the woods now and developed that product out. Next out, we'll look at the hybrids. So again, similar stories. There's tech that tracks across driver, fairway and hybrids here. So we've got the iFlex face. So again, that thickness progression to optimise ball speed. We've got the rebound frame with the 2 speed spots on the face. Again, those zones to be confirmed as soon as we can. So that stiffer frame, again, channeling all the energy back into the face. And we've got, for the first time ever in hybrids, and this is a key one for Srixon, the adjustable hosel sleeve. So that 1.5 degree adjustability, again, allowing us to really dial in the hybrids, and this is across all their lofts rather than just a couple, really allows us to dial in the distance in the flight. They've always performed pretty well, but if that hasn't hit the right flight window, there's been no way to adjust them. And this will make a big difference to Srixon from a sales point of view, because you're not reliant on it being spot on straight out the gate. Again, you can use the higher loft lofted down to open the face, or the lower loft lofted up to close the face. So big advantage for Srixon there. The other part is really in the shaping, so there are fine tunes to the structure of the head and the weight positions. But what they've changed here is what they call tour shaping. Actually, I'll hold it that way around, it's more of a sort of top-down look, is expanded in the toe and in the back. So it's a slightly bigger footprint of head. And ultimately that just allows weight to be positioned a little bit more efficiently, visually gives a slightly more even profile of head shape, But it's really about kind of giving forgiveness and inspiring confidence. So by expanding the head out a little bit, you can remove weight a little further from the face, give a little bit more margin of error. But it's also about creating something that's pleasing to the eye. Hybrids are particularly personal in that respect, and sometimes a slightly quirky shape can just not look right. So this is a more evenly distributed distribution, it's an odd phrase, evenly distributed shape profile, rather than being kind of an uneven profile that looks a little bit unbalanced. It's a more rounded shape, slightly more wood-like as a result, and should hopefully look a little bit more visually appealing to more players. Still a fairly compact heel to toe length though, but plenty of loft options from a 2 hybrid at 17 degrees all the way to a 6 at 30, I believe. I'll double check that. I think it might be 28. I think it's, we're looking at, let me just double check my notes here. We've got 17, 19, 22, 25 and 28 in the 6, with the 3 and the 4 at 19 and 22 available left-handed. Again, left-handed with the adjustable sleeve as well. So again, lots of loft options in there, lots of ability to dial in performance. Quite a simple product. Srixon have always been quite simple with the hybrid setup, so not tried to make them, I think, too fancy, which is on the one hand good, on the other hand, does it drag as much attention from other brands as it could have done? Maybe not, but moderate on spin, something that we quite like. It's not too much of a cannon, which means height, spin control, playing into greens gives you some control. That's something that Srixon have always done well, rather than making a low spin bomber like many other brands do. Onto the irons. So Srixon's ZXi iron and utility iron series, a product which has been growing more and more strong over the years as actually I think the product's had the recognition it deserves. Made great irons for such a long time, and been a really steady seller for us over the years as well. So I'm going to start with the tech that runs through all the various models. So starting with the ZXi-U, the utility iron. So this one being a great head over the years, quite a soft feeling head because of the nature of the construction and the forging. So we're going to start with what they're calling it's the iForged bit. The iForged is the name of the technology or the feature. It's what they call a condensed forging. Now, again, we will confirm exactly what they mean with this, hopefully in Orlando in a couple of weeks' time. But it would appear to be where it's a tighter grain structure, so condensing, you're kind of bringing those grains tighter together. And in the ZXi-U and the 5 and the 4, this runs across the top part of the, from the top of the heel into the top of the toe into the heel side. So which strengthens that top line, makes it a bit more durable, but allows them to use, because of that stronger frame, a bit like the rebound frame or the woods, allows them to use a softer material on the face to keep the feel from the club head, something that Srixon have always been very, very strong with. And that is the case across the ZXi-U, ZXi-5, ZXi-4. Where this is utilised, this material is utilised in the ZXi-7, is the condensed forging is moved into the hosel. Now this, again, makes the hosel more durable, a little bit stronger, but allows them to use a softer material for the rest of the head. So to go softer feel, more feedback, consistency, really is what they're going for, but that softer feel through the ZXi-7. So that's a tech that runs through all of them. And then the forged faces on the multi-material construction heads can then go a little bit thinner, a little faster, gain a bit of ball speed, but retain the feel from a softer material point of view. We then get the Tor VT sole, which is present on all of them. So I'm going to pick up the ZXi-7 for this. And this is that graduated sole shape. Essentially, it's got a bit of bounce to it. So it's an angled sole to help that turf interaction through, stop the leading edge dragging and catching the turf, but then a bit of relief on the back edge, stop the back edge catching too. We've also got the notches heel and toe, again getting those bits out of the way so it really flows through turf sand, but again this tracks across every single one, and it's a combination also of the sole widths and the bounces according to the loft that's on the club as well. And that's something again that graduates as you in the iron sets. It graduates from the long irons to short irons. It varies a little bit. Slightly wider soles in the longer irons, slightly narrower soles in the shorter irons, and graduating amounts of bounces depending on the club it is and the optimal conditions that we're trying to achieve from an impact point of view. So the next feature is called mainframe. Now this is prevalent in the ZXi-U, ZXi-5 and ZXi-4. So what this is, it's a way of milling channels taking weight out essentially in the back of the face. It's thinning out the face, but rather than doing it all the way across, it's milling out channels and patterns into the back. So it saves mass on the face, allows it to be a little bit thinner, a little bit more responsive to gain ball speed, but saves mass, allows that to be repositioned through the head. So allows the mass to be positioned low, helps launch, a little bit of forgiveness, but thinning out the face, making it a little bit hotter, a little bit faster, increasing ball speed, increasing height, but a little bit more forgiveness because you're removing weight from the center of the head and putting it to the perimeter. So that technology in the multi-material construction, the ZXi-U, ZXi-5 and ZXi-4. So now going to go into features that are only in certain models. So ZXi-U, there's a utility iron shaping they call it, but essentially it's the widest soles with minimal offset for this model. So still got a bit of offset, but they've increased sole width to get a little bit more mass down the bottom, increase a little bit of forgiveness by moving weight back, and keeping the shape as clean as possible by lessening the offset through the hosel, makes it a simpler look, more, might sound a daft comment to say more iron-like, suits the better player's visual, and sits a little bit cleaner at address. So where ZXi-U 5 and 4 have main frame, ZXi-7 has pure frame. Now pure frame is that mass in the middle of the head there. So really it's been expanded, widened a little bit. It's really positioning the mass behind the sweet spot, gives it a solid yet soft feel, just enhances that. It's making that a little bit more prominent so that it just helps the feel, expanding the ridge gives better feel and stability, but it positions that mass in a particular spot. So it's a very, very slight enhancement to the positioning of the back weight on the ZXi-7. So final individual feature across the range of models is in ZXi-4. Obviously it shares this with the driving iron, but in the main iron sets, this is the only hollow body construction. So as per previous models, it just creates a really, really clean look. Helps the sound not get too clicky and harsh, and helps kind of control this. It's a moderate sole width, again retains all the other features, but that hollow construction just allows the note and the rigidity of the head just to be augmented that little bit more. It's a slightly bigger head style than the others, but actually from a sound and a feel point of view, we feel there's a big improvement out of this head this year. So really strong head for them, and looking forward to getting this one on the fitting bay. So final feature that runs across the models, the full set models, progressive grooves. So in the longer irons down to 7 iron, they're wider and deeper, and that's about just getting a maximum dirt and debris away from the contact. And then 8 iron down, they're narrower and closer together. And reason for this is with different lofts, different angle of attacks, and different strike points on the face, it's about optimizing spin and therefore consistency across the whole set. So that's something you'd see in wedges as well. High lofts, one groove type, low lofts, another groove type. So that's been adapted into the irons as well. So to summary, plenty of options available. In the ZXi-U 2, 3 and 4 iron available in both right and left-handed. ZXi-7 in right hand, 3 to pitch, A wedge, and in principle sound wedge, although we need to confirm whether this is available in Europe or not. Sometimes the sound wedge isn't available for that. And in left hand, we're at 4 iron to pitch wedge in this. ZXi-5, 3 to pitch, again a right hand gap and sand, but in left hand 4 to pitch. And then the ZXi-4, it's 4 to pitch, gap and sand in right handed, and 4 to gap in left handed. So plenty of options for the lefties as well, which is always refreshing, but really nice, clean kind of progression on performance. Srixon are definitely not trying to reinvent the wheel here. They're taking products that we know and they know perform well, and just smoothing the edges, in terms of, not literally, but in terms of the technology, fine-tuning, developing, and taking what's worked well and doing what they can with it just to get it that little bit tighter, a little bit better, and looking forward to fitting these across the next couple of years.